Okay, well.
Hi everyone. So happy to introduce T.G. Campbell. Do you want to start us off with an intro to you and your books?
Okay, yes, so I'm T.G. Campbell and I write the Bow Street Society series. So it is a collection of books set in Victorian era London, and basically in a nutshell, it's about a group of ordinary people using the skills and knowledge from their ordinary jobs to solve extraordinary crimes. And each of the members have got their own unique skills experience from their normal jobs, which they use to investigate the case which is assigned to them by the Clerk Society, Miss Trent. So the combination of detectives will change with each book, and with each case that they're assigned to, basically, yeah.
It's a good one. It starts with the case of the curious client.
Yeah, the case starts with the case of the curious client, and there's currently 6 books in the series, most recent one being the case of Pugilist Ploy, and I'm currently working on book 7 in the series. There's also a short story collection, which is the case of Screaming the Smog and Other Stories was the most recent ones of those, yeah.
And it is no surprise that I don't hide the fact that I'm like a really big fan.
Yeah, I loved your video. Thank you so much for your lovely review. That was great.
Literally my dream series of books.
Yeah. It's obviously because the one of the short stories was actually in the criminal shorts, wasn't it? For the UK Book Club did the criminal shorts anthology. So I think that's how you discovered it, wasn't it? Through the case of the Devil's Dare in there. Yeah, so it's still available, everybody.
Your books were in the charity auction. I was like,
oh, yeah, so that's the book if you haven't bought it yet.
I was like listing all the things in our charity auction that we did. And
yeah.
Going like, I really want these ones. It was like working out how poor I was going to be.
Oh, bless you.
It's like all the book things came up that I wanted to buy.
Yeah. Because you recently finished book 5 in the series, haven't you?
I did.
Maxwell Murder.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know your thoughts on that particular book.
Yeah, because we've had debates before, haven't we? Because I'm not a big fan of the Maxwells.
No. Joseph Maxwell is one of those characters that you either really, really love or you just really can't stand. You want to pick up and slap, basically. Which people have said to me, just grow up.
Yeah, I think I'm in the pick up and slap category with Joseph. Yeah. You can't be that much of a wet blanket.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. But do you feel as though after reading that particular one that you got a bit more better idea of why he's like that, or do you still think he needs to grow a pair and grow up, basically?
You do have more of an understanding of why he's like that, but he still needs to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still he needs a good shake.
Yeah.
I've not changed my opinion of him after reading the book.
Poor Mr. Maxwell.
It just gets worse.
Yeah. Well, bless him. Yeah, he'll get better eventually at some point.
And then you finish the book, and sorry, no, that was going spoilers.
No spoilers. Spoiler alert.
I was like, you can't say that out loud.
No. Because by the time you get to this point in the series, obviously there's more than one Maxwell, so you're not entirely sure which Maxwell actually is involved in the murder as well. So I think everybody's quite shocked when they found out the title originally for that book.
Yeah, because I have to admit, when I bought them and I started reading it, I did wonder if I'd get to there and certain characters would be the victim.
Yeah.
And things. And I was
disappointed.
That on him. I just think he needs someone to make a man of him, doesn't he? He needs to
go on his own journey, basically, which he will do. He's not actually in book 7, so you do get a bit of a Joseph Maxwell break in book 7. But he will have its own sort of journey with growth, and he will come better. But basically, at the moment, he's very unworldly. But then I think he's even one step beyond being unworldly. I think he is just so. He's not confident at all. He's so nervous, such a nervous individual as well, that he just, yeah.
Is he in book 6? because I've not read book 6 yet. It's looking at me.
Yes, he is in book 6, yes.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about, because the characters revolve, don't they, throughout the stories?
Yeah.
There's quite a few of them that are quite flawed in their own way. You know, there's quite a few that aren't like that likable. Isn't
Yes. Which ones are you thinking of?
So Percy Locke,
Yeah.
he has his issues.
His addiction. Yeah.
Dr. Weeks kind of deliberately is trying to make himself as unlikable as possible, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, that's a bit of a defense mechanism of him, though. But yeah, definitely, he doesn't. He's very rude.
Yeah, he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
to get a reaction, isn't he?
yes. Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, but it's very fun to write for, though. If you had a bad day, you know, just like go write for Dr. Weeks. You know, you can let it all out.
Oh yeah, I think he's the one that you want to go for a drink with, but maybe only one because he'd drink you under the table.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Donna said hi.
Hello. You can see me waving. There you go.
Hello. Dawn Keat has asked if you're a plotter or a pantser.
I am very much a plotter. I cannot pants at all. Because there's the main. Each book has got its own standalone mystery, but then you've got the main plot arc that runs throughout the whole series, and like you say, you've got these sub character plots that again develop throughout the series. So I have to obviously plot the whole thing to know where things are going and what's going to happen to each character, and also how the mysteries are going to affect that. So at the moment, I have got up until book 9 completely plotted out, so I do know where things are headed. But I also edit as I go along as well, because I can't do a whole draft and then go back and edit, because I just can't keep it all in my head. So I also have to very much edit quite a bit as I go along. So there's no way that I could just fire by the seat of my pants space. It's got to be plotting.
I think this should just be a question in general and not to authors, because I am like a pantser in life, just in general.
Yeah.
Just everything.
You've got to go whatever works for you, basically. Like, I think I've never sort of tried to do the pantsing method, but I just think for me personally, I just know it wouldn't work. So that's just the way I just go the way, the method that works for me, really. And I use Writers Cafe storyline program, like tool, which basically just like a virtual notice board. So each line on that notice board is a plot line, so you can actually see, you know, each card is an event, so you can move it all around, and you can actually. I always put like AM, PM, evening as well, so I can see actually the days in the book, how they progress throughout the whole, because basically it's supposed to move in real time throughout the books as well.
I am thinking about Joseph Maxwell still. I'm wondering if we can pair him up with the coach driver whose name I always get wrong, and he's like my favourite character in the story.
Mr. Snyder.
I feel so bad about it. I always get his surname wrong. How am I going right? And I love him.
Sam.
Yeah, absolutely love him. He's brilliant.
Yeah, everybody says that they like Sam. I think Sam's just he's so wholesome and just so nice and lovely. There's no ulterior motive with him. He's very loyal as well, and he's also very knowledgeable. And he's something you can definitely rely on in multiple situations.
He's quite kind of down to earth as well, isn't he? I think if you like made Joseph kind of follow him, around for a bit, maybe he'd learn some of his ways.
Yeah, I think there's still a little bit, obviously, with the Maxwell murder, there's a bit of tension between Mr. Snyder and Mr. Maxwell. I don't think Mr. Snyder hates him, but I don't think he likes the way Mr. Maxwell treated Miss Dexter, basically, because he sees Miss Dexter as Mr. Snyder sees Miss Dexter as more of a daughter figure to him. He's got 5 daughters of his own already, but he sees Miss Dexter and Miss Trent as sort of surrogate daughters, basically. So he's not one to hold a grudge, but he doesn't, like the way he.
Is he? Let's be honest. He's not his biggest fan.
No.
So book 7, you're a few chapters off. What is that going to feature? Because we've had boxing. We had sort of a slightly kind of
spiritualism one. They did
spiritualism one, didn't we? Where are we going with this one?
So this one is going to be around the theatre. This is all about the particular theatre in the West End and sort of the micro society within that theatre. and sort of a death that happens there, and they have to basically investigate that. So, but this case will take them not just in London, but they do actually travel to Birmingham in this one as well. So it takes them up to Birmingham as well. So they go further afield. Because I did, so a couple of years ago, or no, last year, was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. I was part of the Author City Birmingham book signing event, and they did a bumology. So there is actually a short story in there where Miss Trent goes up and meets the Birmingham Bow Street Society, who basically are a copycat group who basically decided, oh, we'll set up our own Bow Street Society. Because I found that there's 32 Bow Streets in the UK. So, you know, franchise. But yeah, so she goes up into there. But so I thought I wanted the opportunity to be able to actually explore Birmingham with 1897 a bit more, because there's a lot of places that just don't exist in Birmingham anymore that they can actually visit, which they do visit in this book. And it's quite interesting also for them to work alongside different police forces as well. I was thinking Maxwell Murder. Is it Maxwell Murder? He goes to, does it go to Tunbridge in Maxwell Murder? I can't remember. Was it? I can't remember. But yeah.
I don't think they go out in that one. Or do? No?
Does Wolf go somewhere? I can't remember if it's that one or the one after. Anyway, but yeah, so that's basically that. This is literally all about the. So they had to do quite a lot of research into sort of different positions in the theatre. So obviously the sort of social aspects around how the theatre is perceived, how people who work in the theatre perceived, not just about the people on stage, there was people backstage, different roles, and particularly, I don't want to give too much away, but how the person dies, how to do research into that. So that this is one of those books where the research very much informed what kind of suspects I created, what kind of motives were included, how the person died, and all that sort of build up and the different relationships within the theatre. So I really enjoyed that. But yes, this is very much going to be a far cry from boxing, so quite a dark and gritty world of boxing. Now you're going to the more sort of genteel world of theatre and the performing arts. So bit of a contrast.
But then you go into Birmingham, which in kind of like that time was probably quite industrial and
there is a reason. Again, the research led me to include Birmingham for a particular reason, which I can't say anything about getting spoilers. But yeah, so they don't go very long, but they do have to go up there to follow a line of inquiry.
That's kind of interesting about all the different Bow Streets.
Yeah, I didn't realise that many Bow Streets, but yeah. So, because the premise of the bumology story was that this clerk in this brick factory read about the London Bow Street. Oh, we could do that. So he got two his fellow friends from who work in the brick factory, and they the brick factory on Bow Street. So, but we'll do their own Bow Street Society, and then they sort of have a couple of cases, and then they get involved in this unexplained death, and basically they get in way over their heads. So they bring in Miss Trent, and they're like, we need like the original Bow Society's help. So she then sends members up to Birmingham, and they then investigate the unexplained death in that collection. So I think that was Mr. Locke, Mr. Heath, and Dr. Locke, who actually sent up to Birmingham. So they meet a detective inspector from the City of Birmingham Police, and they go to a pub and a hospital. But again, those places were very much sort of based in real locations. So the pub is no longer there, but it's I found a book, Lost Buildings of Birmingham, so that very much informed sort of those locations. So again, you get an idea of actually what the Birmingham was like back then, not necessarily how it is now. So
nice.
Yeah.
The locks would be good for the theatre kind of investigation, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So I wonder who's going to be included in this one then.
We do kind of like, as you go through and you learn about the sort of members of the society, you do kind of wonder, you know, when you hear about the new crime in it, you're sort of going, oh, who would I put in to investigate it?
And also what I'm finding more as I'm going through is that sometimes she'll, especially this one, Miss Trent starts with signing like a couple of people, a few people, but then the case will change, and so they need somebody else's expertise, and then somebody else will be brought in further down the line. So the people that you start off the case with, not to say the people it's going to end with, in terms of they'll always be at the end, but you'll also might have additional members who are also be brought in to as the case progresses, because obviously you're not going to, unless you've got like you're psychic, you're not necessarily going to know exactly what skill is going to be needed. So in this one, there's a couple of members who's, you know, you're following them in terms of their lives, and then they then brought in officially into the case.
I'm trying to think about whether there's Bow Street in Leeds, because we have a whole area called Little London.
Yeah.
So it's got like a Charing Cross. It's near Hyde Park.
Yeah, I think I did a search once on Google and it just said, I said how many Bow Streets are there in the UK. And I think it was like, no, it was definitely 30 plus. So I'm thinking, could I at some point just go to every Bow Street in the UK and just take a picture by the sign?
I like the idea of there being different regional ones that have
Yeah.
kind of themselves up.
Well, I just thought, well, I like the idea. I thought, well, if something's, is something like that, so especially if it was a real group, would be quite newsworthy, especially because it's a concept that anybody could actually join. Apart from the police can't join, but if you're just a normal working person, you're qualified basically to join. So I quite like the idea of somebody thinking, oh well, I could do that, unofficially. And yeah, the idea, so yeah, I mean, yeah, franchise opportunities, but yeah, it's like the idea of actually having other people across the country who could operate in the smaller Bow Street societies on different Bow Streets. The possibilities are endless.
I've got 2 thoughts about it. Well, 3 now, because it wouldn't have to be on other Bow Streets, would it? Like they could
No.
just keep the name and just be
Yeah.
somewhere else. Like true crime at the time was quite popular, wasn't it? So I kind of
Yeah.
feel like it would be really newsworthy. But I
Yeah.
feel like if there was like minier ones that Miss Trent would want to have an oversight.
She'd probably go and visit them to make sure, I think she was more concerned that the reputation of the original Bow Society was protected. So it was what other people are doing wasn't really going to like infringe upon that. And also they weren't involved in too much criminality. But yeah, I think she would want to have some kind of involvement in what they were doing. I mean, she's obviously quite surprised to get this letter from the Birmingham Bow Street side. She's like, well, I didn't know one existed, until they actually wrote to her. So she's initially, I think she's quite annoyed, but she's like, oh, I better go and see what's going on, so.
Donna wants to know how much your character arcs have changed from what you planned at the beginning. Have any gone off on huge tangents? That's my answer, yes.
Yeah. Well, basically, the whole will they or won't they romance with Miss Dexter, Mr. Maxwell was never planned in the original plot plan of The Case of Curious Klein. It literally was like one moment in the carriage when I think they touched hands. I'm like, oh, we go. Okay, we're going to do this now, are we? Okay. So them two very much have sort of done their own thing. And even actually in this particular book I'm working at the moment, there is more with Dr. Weeks, and actually his plot line has gone to places where I hadn't necessarily planned, but it is really interesting. It is very sort of, it's a natural progression for him as a character. But definitely it's, Mr. Locke was always going to have a heroin addiction. He was always part of his plot plan. Miss Trent with her sort of backstory, again, I already knew what that was. But yeah, definitely Mr. Maxwell and Miss Dexter was never originally meant to be a romance, but they just sort of decided to do their own thing.
As they do.
Yeah, as they do.
I quite like Dr. Weeks and Dr. Locke's kind of, I don't know, I want to say kind of friendship.
Yeah. They've got a mutual sort of respect for each other. It's very much a professional friendship. Somebody said to me before, oh, I could see them two getting together. I'm like, no.
No, I think they've got that kind of relationship, but I think she's one of the people that he kind of respects.
Yeah.
And so is a bit less curmudgeonly with.
Yeah. I think because she talks back to him, but in a way that's not too confrontational. She's just she calls him out based on what his behavior is like, and so that okay then so I think she knows that he's doing it on purpose, and actually there's more to him than what the persona that he presents to the world. So she knows that, and I think he knows that she knows that. So, but there is also, I think, in the Toxic Tonic there is a moment where she tells him that she knows that he was the member of the Bow Society, which he tried to hide that up to that point, but she then said, I'm not interested in exposing you or anything. So I think again there's points where they have that mutual respect, and which actually their friendship has grown from that, and it is very much he's teaching her in the ways of sort of like doing post-mortems, that sort of thing, but also I think in some ways she's teaching him to be a bit more of a human being.
Is the Toxic Tonic the one where they go to the department store?
That's the hotel, Toxic Tonic.
Oh, that's the hotel.
That's book 4, yeah.
Yeah, it's the one before where they go to the department store, isn't it?
Yeah, book 2 is department stores. That's Lushington is where they go to Oxford Street in the department store. Yeah, that's where
Yeah,
Dr. Locke first comes in that one.
that one's quite haunting, isn't it? It's like quite a dark story at times.
Yeah, but I suppose yeah. I mean, that is probably the darkest one in terms of the actual main mystery that I've done. I think because the ending is so like you don't see it coming. I think in the ending, everybody's quite shocked actually when you were confronted with actually reality and what's been going on. Um, but yeah, compared to the other mysteries, it does go to a bit dark places. Yeah.
I like the hotel one because that's quite like a closed room mystery, isn't it? And it's like very it's one where you kind of have Inspector Conway kind of having problems and
Yeah, they're forced to work together. So the police and the both society forced to work together. But also, what I'd realised when I come to write that was that there was quite a lot of members who hadn't actually met each other within the society. So they were then working together for the first time. So there's a lot of introductions initially, and I was in my mind always have this scene of just the society members being in the hotel and then Conway would come in and then just weeks just turning up just looking like rough as hell and just being like showing the body and it's amazing how in your mind that you can visualize the characters and the scenes. But I really like that because they literally he had to do that balancing act of being his duty to the police but also the duty to the victim whilst trying to appease the society.
the police are kind of have an uneasy relationship with them, don't they? Because I think they appreciate the help, but they very much don't think that they should be involved.
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to in the police in this. But yeah, Inspector Wolf, who is of Bow Street, he's of the opinion that no members of the public should be involved in any criminal cases because it's dangerous and it's unnecessary and it should leave to the police. And that he's very much going from that point of view. And his motives were in the right place. Then Conway, obviously, he's got his split loyalties for various reasons. He's trying to just be, appease everybody, but at the same time, he is a policeman through and through, so he just lives the job. So he believes in what society is trying to achieve, but at the same time, he also believes in the ability of the police as well. So he's very stuck in the middle. Whereas Inspector Lee is so selfish and he just wants to protect himself and he's not really interested in being a policeman, just wants to just continue with the lifestyle he's used to. And so he very much wants to destroy the society because he feels that they're a threat to his ongoing lifestyle as a gentleman because he's very much is corrupt. So very much the police, that like I think as you go through the series, the society obviously get hired by private clients, but then it's that question of how they get access to the crime scene, how they get access to the same evidence, how because the police are very much like, no, don't come in, we don't want to know, whereas like I say in Toxitonic, because they were stuck together, Conway had to have that compromise, which then obviously came back to haunt him in book 5 because he basically had to bend the rules. And again, because it was basically reported that society solved the case, again it's sort of a bit of mud on their faces. So it's that sort of reputational thing and making sure that the police themselves save face, and so that he very much becomes a bit of a scapegoat after that.
True. And I think that's one of the interesting things about the Maxwell murder, apart from the plot, the main mystery. You do get a little bit more about the history of the Bow Street Society.
Yeah.
There's kind of been dripped in before, hasn't it? And we know bits of it, but there's a lot more about it.
Yeah, because basically, because Conway's been there since the beginning of the Bow Street Society itself. So with his past, you get a lot of how the society was formed, how Miss Trent was recruited, who obviously you already knew who the true founder was, but then you didn't realise how entrenched Conway himself was in the whole thing. So again, you get a bit more insight to his psyche and actually what position he's in. But Conway is very much I think, probably the most complex character in so many ways, but I also think he's one of my favourite characters to write for because you can explore both sides with him. But I'm very conscious of trying to make sure that the police as a whole are still given their fair credit. They're still, they're not useless, they're not stupid. They can investigate crimes themselves. They can solve cases. It just the society also they're solving the same case. The society very much want to work with the police, but there is this thing of no, it's the police's job. Stay out of it.
Do the kind of people themselves ever find out the true story of the Bow Street Society? Is that going to come out at any
Yes.
point?
Yes.
Ooh. Which book is it going to come out in?
Well, so obviously I planned with the book 9. I've always said that at the moment the series is only going to last for 10 books. So the revelations will all be coming out by the end of book 10. So by the end of book 10, everything should be resolved in different character arcs, the main plot arc, all that will be resolved one way or another, basically. There will be casualties on the way, I'm afraid. So, I can't guarantee everybody's going to survive. But I do know how that's going to happen and when. But
You're going to have a George R.R. Martin moment. You do realise this, where different fans are going to write to you now and be like, they might not all survive, but Sam needs to.
Yeah. Everybody said to me, don't you kill anybody but not Sam. I'm like,
Because George R.R. Martin's wife told him that if he killed off Arya, I think it was, that she was like, literally, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, the people who die, the people who aren't going to die, they do die for a good reason. It's not just they just walk down the street and they get hit by something. It's like just, sometimes you feel character death is done for the dramatic effect and there's no actual real purpose to them. But these very much will lead one to the other, to basically to a domino effect of scenarios. So they don't die in vain, basically. And I'm, with this book very much sort of setting the scene for the next 2 books after this. So I had to plan all the book 7, 8, and 9 all together. While I was that's one of the reasons why it's taken a bit longer, because I need to make sure they all tie together and anything that needs to happen, start happening now, will obviously have an effect on books 8 and 9.
Fair enough. So after book 10, because you write quite quickly normally. I mean, I know you said there's been a delay with this one, but you are normally like.
I think I still write quite slowly. I was actually getting a book out a year, but I still think I still need to be quicker than that, I think, really, ideally. But the problem is the books have got longer and longer and longer. So the more's happening, obviously, the thing is getting longer and longer. Obviously, Puga's plot it was a beast. By the time I actually published it, I was like, I didn't realize it's this long, because I don't track my word count as I go along. So I do each chapter in different files, and not until I put it all together that I realise it's actually quite a long book. But yeah, people have said to me, what you're going to do after book 10? Is there going to be a continuation of Society? And it's like, I really don't know. I kind of feel I need to make sure that if I continue with it, that it's true to the concept and true to the characters, but I'm just continuing for the sake of it. But I kind of want to leave it to the point where, if I never write another one again, you feel satisfied that everything's resolved and you know what's happened to the characters. But if I want to write another one, I can. I've still got scope then to explore different characters, different members and stuff. So I've still got that opening.
So enough of them have to survive that you could.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So, yeah.
So we can send our postcards in of all the ones that need to survive.
Yeah.
Would you write other things though? Because I kind of feel like this. I mean, obviously, you could write these forever, and I would be really, really happy. But I also feel like you could write other stuff that would be equally as entertaining.
Well, I do want to. I think I said before, I would like to do some kind of spin-offs from this main series, which focus on single members. So what they do outside the society. So, but I could use that as a vehicle to explore different genres. So I could like to do a sort of traditional haunted house story of Mr. Verity, who's the spiritualist, but just it'd be a bit more of a horror type thing rather than just that crime aspect. But again, it's a character but it's like what he does, when he's not doing his detective work, And also I would like to do something Dr. Weeks where it's a bit more of a sort of anthology, but at the same time it would be written as if he's writing it. So his guide to London pubs, but he'd be talking about the different cases that he was involved with that particular pub, but at the same time telling you what his favourite bit about the pub is and what his favourite drink is and that sort of thing. So and sort of talk about, but then have that more focus on like emerging forensic techniques. So that would be informed by sort of the history. But I also would like the idea of doing maybe a spy novel with Mr. Locke, where he gets embroiled with an international plot. But again, you're working with the spy genre rather than actually the traditional mystery stories.
You could combine that, because if you made it international, you could kind of have a bit of a seafaring adventure as well.
Yeah, with Mr. Skinner could come in.
He's another one like of my favourites. Actually, I quite like Mr. Skinner.
Yeah, I quite like Mr. Skinner. I think when I do the short stories, obviously, because the short stories aren't, they're not murders, they're like more quirky problems, but it's quite good to actually pair up unusual sort of pairings. So I quite think in short stories, Mr. Skinner, who's obviously the retired naval officer and bodyguard, often gets paired up with Dr. Alexander, who is the veterinary surgeon. So you think that's a bit of an odd combination, but actually they work really well together.
They do. He works really well with quite a range of them, though. I think he's quite a good, like, multi-purpose member, isn't he? Kind of fits in well with.
Yeah, he's the muscle base. He tends to be the muscle. Unless there's something specifically to do with guns or weapons, he generally is the person they send in to be the muscle. But so in the case of the Screaming the Smug and other stories, I think it's the case of the Cryptic Clues, you actually find out more about him and his backstory and how he came to be where he is. Particularly when he was in the Navy, basically what happened to him in the Navy. So you get a bit more about him as a character. But that short story purely is just about strange things that are left for him, and he's got to figure out who this person is that's actually sending them and everything. So that was quite an interesting short story to write, because again, the short stories, you give you an opportunity to just have a little bit more room to explore the different relationships, but also a bit more glimpse into their past, really.
And I think that's one of the things, again, where this format of the series works really well, because you can do that, because you've got such a wide range of characters.
Yeah, at the moment it's like 15 members, I think, at the moment, 15 known members, but in my mind there is more members that you've never met that haven't come into it yet.
I genuinely, I know I said this in my review, I think it's really hard. Like, it's a really cool concept, but to then make the concept work so well actually requires like real talent to kind of pull off, because you've got to make every character interesting, and then you've got to make them make sense with the crime that you're doing.
They've got all the experts as well in their field, which can be a bit tiring sometimes when you've got, like, you know, Dr. Weeks has obviously got very much, when he does his little talks in the meeting talking about poisons and how they affect, and when they're testing, they think that's also a lot of research. And then you've got Mr. Elliot, who is like the lawyer, so he's got a bit of knowledge of everything, different kinds of law. But again, in order for them to actually sound very knowledgeable and expert, I've got to actually go and do the digging and actually find out what that law was at that point, because obviously things are always changing. So you've always got to like reverse it and try to find out what it was at the time. But that's the bit that I love doing, finding out those interesting bits of information, and for them to actually, and that's what makes them so good at what they do, because they can bring that bit more of that unique knowledge. But also because they are members of the public, they're not the police, people are more willing to talk to them, they're more willing to open up to them, because ultimately they haven't got the power to arrest them, so they can technically say whatever they like to them, and then they can't actually like pull them in for questioning. But generally I think, yeah, that's why, you know, it speaks to the public's mistrust of the police as well. They can find they're more able to trust a member of the public than they are the police officers at the time.
Have you ever thought about time traveling with them? So maybe having like a 1920s version.
I did work out once, I think, how old they all would be in 1920. I think Miss Trent would be 40, or I don't know, 40s. I think she would quite enjoy the 1920s. Conway, I think, would just be a grouchy old man. But then I think that would probably be the latest I'd probably go, because I think it would be interesting to know what happened to them like during the First World War. I could see almost Mr. Locke, you know, going off to war in the First World War, but as an officer. And then sort of if anybody's like had kids since then, I think that's quite good. But also I quite like the idea of maybe if it was to go to like modern day, but have somebody maybe researching the original society, and maybe have a bit like, and maybe a modern day mystery ties in with that original a case that's unsolved from the original society possibly, and they've got to hunt down descendants of the society's members. That again sort of appeals to me.
Yeah, so I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, or a futuristic version, so it's even like
Yeah,
more ahead. So we've got more technology.
yeah. So yeah, the possibilities are endless. But I also like the idea of actually possibly doing a more traditional sort of police procedural book as well. So that's also possibly on the cards. Once this book 10 book run is done, maybe starting a different series, but with just one detective. Just seeing how far I could take that.
Do you think you could cope with writing just one detective after having like 15?
Well, I think I don't even want to say who I want to do and want it because I think that would give away who's going to survive. But I think it would be good to actually explore that detective's life, and actually you can bring in a colourful cast of characters, but with people that they know and people that they regularly have contact with. So I think you could still have that dynamic, but not necessarily the same way. It'd be a challenge. It's a new challenge as well. It's just a different challenge. I think it's something so. I think it'd be something completely different that people would find quite interesting to see how I would approach that. I think.
Yeah, and you've got your fans who will follow you, I think, with whatever you write now.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I think you've got quite a gathering, haven't you? Like
Yeah,
Bow Street fans. I think
yeah, I think so.
there's lots of people out there who love them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I met a few people obviously at the You Could Come Book Club live event, and then I've obviously met people at like other book signing events, and it's great to meet people and people to email in and stuff. And as you know, sort of you just sat on your own typing, writing away and everything, and it's nice to actually get that feedback and know that people are really enjoying the characters and enjoying the world that you've created because it becomes real to you. So in a way, it's kind of nice that somebody else is also occupying that same world as you. So even if it's all fictional and imaginary, it does get to the point where you do feel like these people are real, and that you have to make sure that you do right by them to a certain extent.
Do you ever get like a story inspiration as like one of the characters kind of telling you what's going to happen next?
It's not necessarily what they're going to happen next, but the characters always like ask a question during the course of the mystery which I hadn't thought of, and I'm like, yes, that's a very logical question. Yes, we now have to go from this. Just hold that thought while I go and research it and come back with the answer. But actually, well, saying that though, in this book that I'm working at the moment, there's two characters which things are developing, which very much developing naturally, but at the same time, it's something that's been brewing for a while. So, but again, I hadn't necessarily planned to have it go to that extent in this book. But again, it's just happened because they decided to do what they want to do. So I think there's going to be a bit more surprises in this one than maybe people were anticipating from certain characters.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
She says, this is all good. I mean, and saying that you're not the fastest author, if you're writing like a book a year and you've got to research the history and then all the answers of all the like different kind of characters and stuff, that must be quite time consuming.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what I'd normally do is I have sort of, like I say, I'm deciding what the theme's going to be. So obviously this one is going to be in the theatre. So then I read a book about sort of the book Life on the Victorian Stage was all very much about sort of how actors and actresses they think acted, and the newspapers and the scandals, that sort of thing. And then I also had the Victorian theatre, which told you more about mechanics of how the theatre worked. So then I did a lot of sort of reading of that, highlighting a lot of things. And then I then went away and then just based upon those two sort of sources, then framed around the suspects and what I want to do. And actually that research again informed the method of murder. And then I sort of, so I'd already had like the base of what's going to happen to the other characters. So then I had to obviously like then plot out the mystery, put that into the main plot plan, rearrange it all. Of course, then as I'm writing it, it gets rearranged again because things happen in different order. And it can be quite time consuming, but I think the method that I use in terms of write and edit. So I'll do a scene and I'll go back and edit it. So normally a scene will have about between 7 and 13 drafts, but I won't move on until I'm happy with that particular scene. And quite often I might have to go back into different chapters and add something in, but I find that method a lot quicker than having, I say, one big draft and having to go back and try and do the whole thing. So even though it might sound counterproductive, I do find a lot easier. I could do a lot more focused editing because I know specifically precisely where I want to take things. And I just did one chapter today, which I'd written it one way, and then I decided actually no, I need to actually condense that bit. So I actually made 3 scenes into one. So again, if I just left that to the end, that would have had quite a big impact on how the rest of the book would have played out. So it's like by doing it at the time, it hopefully just avoids those problems. So that's why I can do relatively quickly. But a lot of the research I have already saved, obviously on the computer or on books. I've got sources that I'll always go to for particular things. But it's normally the biggest thing that I have to take the most research in is actually the locations. So if I want to use a specific location, it's trying to find sort of photographs, maps. I like to actually, if they're going to have, especially when they give directions, like they like to have them actually named streets, and so you can actually physically actually walking through the streets with them. So rather than going, oh, it's just down there and to the left, they'll name the streets. So with Birmingham being it's a lot different to what it was now, and again, sort of that took the time to find out where the police station was, which police station were they used, would have been based there. Where the pub was, what other pub was, where different percentages of that something else was, so that's what takes the time, is actually the location research.
Yeah, you mentioned walking tours before we went live.
Yeah.
Have you ever attempted to make your own Bow Street walking tour?
I do have a friend who does regular walking tours. He did say to me that at some point he would be happy to help me write a downloadable walking tour of the locations of in the books. But I kind of think I want to do that once this main series is done, because I would like to do a sort of both societies London, which has like the different the real locations, but also the fictional locations, and have maybe the walking tour as part of that book, as well as like a separate free downloadable file that you can download yourself and actually follow yourself. But what I also want to do is I think it might be in the previous ploy, Inspector Lee actually is given a copy of the members' code book. So I would like to do a limited edition replica of the code book of what, from like as if written by Miss Trent, and what the members themselves would be given. So I have found a company locally that would do a limited print one, but have it so it's more like a Victorian type hardback book, like a pocket book with the embossed right on the front and everything. So you'd feel as though it actually was something that members would have actually been given. So again, that's something that I want to do as well, sort of once this main sort of series is done. So there's a lot more sort of world building I think that I can add to that. But I also think, with especially with the real locations of London and say with Birmingham and that sort of thing, it would be good for people to actually, I mean, people have said to me they have gone to certain places in London, like, oh, imagine the character standing on the steps at Bow Street, and it does make you feel, when you visit somewhere and then you include it in the books, it does make you feel a lot closer to the location, a lot closer to that time period, especially if you can visualize actually, well, there's where the steps would be, that's where that office would be. Because so with the Scotland Yard building, I actually managed to get so it was at the original plans for the Norman Shaw building, which is the red brick building, was actually held by the British Society of Architects. So the lady there, she took photographs of the original floor plans for me. So that's what I used in Puga's ploy, was when he's moving around the building is actually how it would have been back then. So again, it's just that getting that extra layer of realism so that you feel as though you're actually part of that world.
Donna says, how cool is that? She would definitely do a Bow Street walking tour.
Oh, thank you. But I just think, at the moment, while I'm still sort of including locations, I think it would be just a half-finished walking tour. So I'd like to do one that's complete, basically. And I would like to eventually put all the short story into one volume, so you get again that complete collection of all the short stories. But so I could do a walk tour at the moment, but I think that it would be only fair to sort of have. Also, because I think because there's certain places which are all like clumped together, and some places a bit further out, so it'd be good to actually know what all the locations I'm dealing with, basically. Because I still haven't necessarily decided entirely where I'm going to place things, because sometimes we miss. Trent will meet with Jones in different locations. They never meet in the same place twice. So if they're going to have another meeting, I would want to pick somewhere else for that. So it's making sure that all those locations are listed.
I think that this is just going to add all of the things that hardcore fans need, like the code book, the collection of short stories.
Yeah, I think the rule book and code book will be really interesting to write, because you get a bit of a glimpse into what kind of rules there are that Miss Trent has actually given people. But I think it would be interesting to actually read a bit more widely what kind of things the members would be advised to do in different scenarios. So that would be interesting to do that. But yeah, because it's something else, and it will be very much a limited run that people can just purchase or can do giveaways for and everything, and that would just be something that this is just something to collect and to hold, and yeah.
You could almost like because I think some of the short puzzles are really clever. You could almost turn them into like a kind of online kind of mystery. Can you solve a Bow Street Society puzzle?
Yeah, it's funny because like me and my friend years and years ago, we actually for her birthday, you get those like murder mystery dinner party kits where you each get a part and you've got the little booklets. So we actually used one of those as like our template, and we actually wrote I basically wrote the whole dinner party, and it was basically set around, the theme was Grease, the film Grease. So it was all a lot of puns and that sort of thing. But we actually then filmed ourselves as the detectives, like arriving and this murder's happened, and when they arrived at the house we had like a crime scene set up and everything, and everybody really loved it. But I had thought about doing something like that. I do eventually want to start streaming on Twitch, but I want to very much sort of focus on sort of video games which are set in the Victorian era and sort of talk about how accurate they are, how accurate they're not are. So there's a lot of Sherlock Holmes games, so there's a few games set around Jack the Ripper. And also sort of focus on Agatha Christie PC games as well, and how the golden age of mysteries is actually translated into video games, and get people on that I've just spoke to in the past to talk about like what they know about that area. And so that I do very much that's what I'm planning to do as well in the near future, is actually to look at sort of puzzles and games and how that links in with the mystery genre and the crime genre, and how the two can meet together. So that is what. But then I did consider, as part of that, I could have actors where you could have a live interactive murder mystery, where in the chat you could ask the suspects, has a suspect on screen, say, ask your questions, and then people then get then you open the clue and that sort of thing, and then you could actually then at the end you could then vote, right, who do you think it is? So again, that's another idea. But these have great ideas, but again, it's the time and it's the money, and but at the moment, very much my focus is get the book done. So
Donna is impressed with how much thought and effort you've put into the whole brand.
Oh, thank you.
I properly love Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper, the video game. I love all the Sherlock Holmes games, but that one is especially great, partly because it is so bad.
Yeah.
Because like whole bits of the scenery disappear when the dog starts walking, or Sherlock walks into a wall, and
It's amazing actually how many Sherlock Holmes games are actually out there. I must have about at least 10. I've got that game on Xbox. I've also got the Testament of Sherlock Holmes. I've also got another 5 on Steam on my computer. And it's never ending. How many, obviously, but now that Sherlock Holmes the character is also out of copyright, you now get a lot of him appearing with other characters from literary books and everything in people's own renditions of that, their own stories and everything. But I've always said that in my universe, Sherlock Holmes still is a fictional character. He's not going to turn up and be like, "Don't worry, I'll solve it." So he very much. But they also get compared with Sherlock Holmes in the stories. They can't go like, "Oh, I expected something like Sherlock Holmes," and like, no, And I think initially when I first started out, people were reading it thinking that it was going to be very much like Sherlock Holmes. When Dr. Weeks comes out, it's Effin and Jeffin, they're like, "Oh no, don't like this." But
but then I think I think Sherlock Holmes is great in its own way, but I like yours more because they are just more like real people.
Okay, thank you.
Trying to solve the crime. Sherlock Holmes is an almost superhuman crime solver, isn't he? Just kind of
He's a machine, really, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and you sort of almost don't believe that anyone like that really exists. Whereas
all my characters, they've got flaws, they've got their own problems, they're trying to deal with that as well as if they can investigate the cases, they will. They've got their own jobs, they've got their own livelihoods they've got to sustain, as well as being called upon at random times to be involved in murder investigations. And it's quite good that some of the members want to donate, so obviously then the poor members can then still take part. So you have that sort of self-sustaining sort of element to it as well. But because the different characters are different classes as well, and I'm trying to reflect so many different parts of society and different kinds of people in the society itself, because the British society should really reflect society as a whole, and that was the whole reason why it was set up, was that people, regardless of their class, age, gender, sexuality, or anything, they were access to justice.
Yeah, and that makes sense with the society as well, doesn't it? Because they sort of send the people to investigate who will get the best answers from.
Yeah. They've got the best knowledge, so they'll know people. They'll know that people are lying, because well, actually, no, I know you're lying because I know the X, Y, and Z, which maybe a police officer might not necessarily know. Especially with so one short stories, the Garcia Gallop was all about an insurance fraud where they swapped out the pedigree horse for another horse, and the veterinary surgeon was basically obviously knows all about horses. He could recognise immediately this horse you're saying is dead. That's not the pedigree horse, whereas somebody else might go, oh, it's a horse is a horse, so. Him bringing that specialist knowledge has enabled him to actually spot that fraud and call them out on it, basically, and expose it.
That was a good case, actually.
Yeah, everybody said they quite liked that case. It could have actually been a whole book, they said, but that was quite laborious to actually research about horses, the characteristics of horses and everything, because there's a lot of things which I will need to know, but necessarily don't get referenced directly in the books, but which I still need to know as the basis. So there's a lot more reading that went into that than just what you see in the book. But I did enjoy that, and I love the fact, that after they've got the answer and everything, then Conway, bless him, then trots in to then basically provide the official muscle to say, right, we now know what you've done. Now you've got to basically admit it or, arrest you, sort of thing. So he does get called upon, bless him, to actually wipe up the debris at the end.
Tell us what you've read recently and enjoyed.
So obviously, I'm not really reading a lot at the moment, because obviously I'm still just working on the book. But I'm currently reading. I'll tell you what I'm currently reading. So I'm about 70 of the way through The Planting of the Penny Hedge by Chris Turnbull. So I got this copy from Books of the Beach. So I'm actually reading the Kindle version of this. And I'm also on book 3 of the Nero Wolfe series, which I absolutely love. Nero Wolfe and Archie Goodwin. The series, the TV series with Maury Chaykin, and I can never remember the guys. Timothy Hutton, Timothy Hutton played Archie Goodwin. It was from the early 2000s, and it was an ensemble cast, so it was the same actors but different characters. And basically the books were started in 1930s America, and it goes right through to like the 1970s, I think. But that particular series just focused on the 1930s and 40s, and I just love the concept because Nero Wolfe just stays at home. He is a man of habits. He's a creature of habit, and he very rarely leaves the house. So he stays in, he tends to his orchids, and he sits behind his desk drinking his beer. And then Archie goes out, does all the legwork. He's the more hard-boiled type element. He brings in suspects. Wolfe will then question the suspects, and then Wolfe will literally solve the case from his armchair. And I just, the books themselves are actually written from the first person from Archie's point of view. So again, you've got that hard-boiled element, but I definitely think that it's the perfect marrying of the classic sort of clue puzzle, Agatha Christie type thing with in Nero Wolfe himself, and then you've got the hard-boiled Philip Marlowe element in Archie Goodwin, and the humour in it is hilarious. But yes, I'm on book 3 on that. I absolutely love that series. There's like 40 odd books in the series, so I've got quite a lot to go. But the Rubber Band, that is the third one.
You're doing quite well then.
Yeah, so Nero Wolfe, series by Rex Stout it is. So
it's always good when you find a series, isn't it? And there's like loads.
Yeah.
It's going to keep me going for some time.
Yeah, but it's just the way it's so vividly sort of like written and everything as well. And I obviously love that era anyway, for Agatha Christie and everything. But I just love the style, and it's I've got as you can imagine, I've got quite a big to be read pile. I read the first book of The Great Frost of Chris Speck. I've still got a second book of that to read, and I'm really looking forward to reading that. I've got the newest William Quest book by John Bainbridge I want to read, because I really love that series as well. But it's just at the moment my focus has been get the book done. So
I was going to ask if you read other kind of Victorian ones, because there's Bridget Walsh has got some good kind of Victorian theatre.
Well, the Planting of the Penny Hedge is actually is set in Victorian era. It's in Whitby though, so it's more sort of Yorkshire way. But that is, and John Bainbridge's William Quest books are set in Victorian era as well. So I don't go very far from the Victorian era, but it's anything that's got a really good story. But I really like, obviously the Prispec books were obviously a lot earlier than that, but yeah, I tend to read sort of, I do tend to gravitate towards that sort of era anyway. It's interesting to see how other authors interpret the era, and and you also find out interesting information from their books. It's very like, oh, okay, a bit more research on that. Yeah, I'll just borrow that. Thank you very much.
Victorian era, Whitby was probably doing quite well because there was like a bit of a boom in the kind of jet thing, wasn't there? Like jet manufacture and stuff is all.
Yeah, I think this is in a similar era to, I think it's like 1880s or 1890s in his series, but he's on book 3 now. Of that particular series, but yeah, I'm just not quite early into the book. So the detective has just moved from York to Whitby, and he's literally just settled in because his father, who is the chief constable of the local police, has basically called him back to his hometown. He's now been asked to investigate this body that's been found on the beach. So I am still quite early in onto that, but it's been good so far. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, because there's still elements of the Whitby jet kind of industry there, but it was really big in the Victorian times.
Yeah, I've been to Whitby a few times. I do love Whitby. Been up to the church and everything, and yeah, it's a good place to go.
It is. It's definitely got a whole like goth vibe, hasn't it? It's great. I love
it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would probably live there if I could, but at the moment, yeah, it's not really possible. But no, yeah, I do like going to Whitby.
I don't think I'd want to live there. I think it's too isolated, but for me, I'm a bit of a city kid, but
good writing location though.
yeah, very atmospheric.
Yeah, not too many distractions.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing. If you can want to sit and write, it's definitely a good place.
Yeah.
Are you tempted to develop the Bow Street Society video game? Then you could Twitch your own game.
Well, that would be quite a good. Well, yeah, but then who would I include? It's like, if you imagine Miss Trent not in the video game, but
you could choose what character you want it to be. Like, I'm loving this. I'm selling myself on this game now.
It could almoys be like an open world where it's a bit like Ella in Noir, where you just travel around the map and then you get different locations and investigate different cases. So then you can make all the characters through just going to different locations. But like I say, you could actually have each character. You could pick a character and then you could then just go through their story arc through that one particular character by just exploring the map. And then you could then use another character and then go back and explore the map. It's a bit more open world. That would be quite cool.
And then you could have it almost, like the Lego style thing. So as you work through solving the cases, you unlock other characters that you can play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it'd be like, well done, you solved case 1. You now have Dr. Weeks.
You have Dr. Weeks. Yeah, go to Dr. Weeks' dead room. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm open to offers. Anybody out there who happens to be a game developer is thinking they might want to buy the rights, I'm happy to discuss.
I mean, also moving up to Yorkshire, there's loads of game developers up here.
Oh, okay. Might be something worth to consider then.
Yeah.
But yeah, might have to consider that.
Because you mentioned L.A. Noire, like Rockstar Games.
I loved L.A. Noire. I've got that actually. I need to replay that, but I did love that game. I love that era anyway. I think if I was going to go completely different era, that would be the era I'd write in. Sort of 1930s, 40s America, hard boiled, tough talking, private eye. Yeah, I love all that.
I love that game as well. There's so much.
Yeah.
Driving around, because I'm really bad at driving in fiction.
Yeah. Especially if you've got to do a chase and you're just like, oh, I'd have to chase this person, and then you just completely just don't do it. But yeah, I like the fact that he joins different departments within the police force, doesn't he? He starts with traffic, and then he goes to vice, and then he goes to homicide, and then he goes somewhere else. Yeah, I like that. That he moves for different departments.
He does. Reminders. So we got to the end of the time. We got distracted with video games.
Already.
I know. Remind us what people are going to go away and buy.
Right, so the Bow Society series. So the first in the series is The Case of the Curious Client. So as I say, you can read the books out of order But I would recommend you do read them in order, because obviously you've got different character arcs, different plot arcs, and in order to get, by the time you get to Maxwell Murder, I think you get the full impact of that once you've read the other books. I said the most recent book that's out in the series, if you have read the others, it's book 6, which is The Case of the Pugilist Ploy. Or we've got the short story collection, which is the most recent one, which is The Case of the Scream and the Smog and Other Stories. And they're all available on Amazon, all in marketplaces, so paperback and ebook. So you can just type in Bow Society, that'll come up. I also have a monthly newsletter, Gaslight Gazette, and you can find out more information on my website, which is bowstreetsociety.com.
Fabulous. And then all that's left to say is thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me again. It's been really good.
You're always welcome.
Thank you.